Welcome to the Patron Saints of Pop Culture podcast. I'm Miguel Covarrubias.
And I'm Kathy Covarrubias. And today, let's talk about the Game of Thrones Season 8.
Spoiler alert, if you have not yet seen any of the 6 episodes that comprise Season 8, because, we'll spoil it for you.
A lot, yes.
Spoiling it is going to really do much, I think. So.
Yeah.
Let's just get right into our summaries and reviews, why don't we? Because there's a lot to be said.
Yeah.
Summary, it was the preparation and Battle of Winterfell, and then they threw in the sacking of King's Landing for fun.
You're not going to tell them how it ended?
It was irrelevant to the writers, so it's irrelevant to the summary.
Well, I will do them a service, and I'll tell them how it ended. Obviously, they've probably already seen it. But anyway, so the White Walkers made it over the wall. It's all intense. Then they arrive at Winterfell, and everybody's like, oh no, how are they going to win this battle? But then the people do win the battle, because we still had 4 more episodes left. Or 3 episodes, I can't remember.
Yeah.
3 more episodes left. And then they're like, okay, well, I guess now we have to go defeat Cersei since we did this thing. And so then they go down to King's Landing, and they sack King's Landing. And everybody's like, Dany, why are you crazy? And she's just like, because I am, bitch. And then and then Tyrion is like, hey, Jon, yeah, you got to do something about Dany. And then he does. And then his brother becomes the king. Because why not? Why not have Bran be the king?
Because according to Tyrion, he has a better story than everyone else.
Which is bullshit. Sorry, I'm going to be cursing a lot because I have lots of feelings. So just fair warning to everybody.
I wonder if we're going to get marked off or something for not marking this episode as explicit language.
You know what? I don't think we have anybody or any listeners under the age of 15, so I think we're okay.
Yeah. And not like they haven't heard worse from like cable television.
Exactly. Yeah, I keep my cursing to a good minimum, I think.
Well, yeah. If you've watched Game of Thrones, you've
yeah, exactly. If you've watched Game of Thrones, you've seen and heard worse.
Yeah. You've seen a lot of penises and
not that many.
Nipples and
nipples, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, other things. Anyway.
My review, it was only okay. Like, the visuals were great, but the writing behind it was horrible. Mm-hmm. See, I know that you're going to talk more about this, and I'm going to try to not step on any of what you have to say. But I really feel like the writers needed to know their medium. It's like they wanted to put everything that they thought was cool in the book onto the screen, but
the books aren't out yet, though.
Yeah, I know, but they got like a rough outline or whatever from George R.R. Martin, and it didn't fit well. Like they rushed way too much. They didn't put anything into character development. It's like they wanted a stage production out of a television show, which it doesn't work that way. Nope.
And that should be all that you say.
That's all that I'm going to say.
Man, there were parts that and I'm sure a lot of you guys were like, yes, like this is what I needed. This was great. It was like the first 3 episodes were like, well, the first 2 weren't all that awesome, but like everything up until the Battle of Winterfell, everybody was like, yeah, like this is what we needed. Like it's the end, and like here we go, we're gonna make it. And then everything after that was just poopy. It was. And the last 3 episodes just really made me feel unsatisfied. Like I wasn't mad at it, how it ended, but I wasn't overly happy with it either. It was just more like, oh, I guess I will take this, is how it was.
Well, I really want to talk specifically about about character development, and I think this is something that I think it's a really fine line between hero and radical.
As we can see, because we see one character go from hero to radical within minutes.
Like it's not like the character development was part of the previously on.
Yeah.
Which no, you can't just play jump rope with that line. That's not how this goes.
No, they were being lazy.
Well, the thing is, we see it explained more. Like the entire plot hole problem of everything was tried to explain they tried to explain everything that was wrong with the entire season in dialogue in the last episode. Mm-hmm. Everything was explained, and there was a great scene, which I believe it was a great scene. I enjoyed it, between Tyrion and Jon, where Tyrion's in jail and he's trying to explain to him, yeah, she killed people. When she killed the evil people, we were like, yeah, hey, it's good, because she's killing the people who deserve to be killed. But now all of a sudden she's just killing people, and we, all of a sudden realize, oh no, she's been a killer this entire time.
Yeah, she just went from being, I guess, forgiven for what she was doing because she was helping protect innocents. And at one point in time, she did feel bad about her dragons killing children. Like she did. She felt upset, and she actually chained her dragons in the basement because of it. And yet she goes to King's Landing and is like, whatever, everybody dies. I don't care.
Yeah, that whole I don't want to see any more. I don't want to have any more babies dropped at my feet, charred babies. Yeah, that whole episode. That was an entire episode.
Yep.
Instead, we get a 5-second thing in a previously on to explain. Oh yeah, she's gonna go batshit.
It is just not. It's not fair. It's not. It is a disservice to her. There's a disservice done to other characters as well too, but primarily Dany, because she fell the furthest.
She fell the furthest, and she fell too fast. And this is something we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I really want to focus on that concept that she was kind of talking about at the end there, that where Jon comes to her and he's like, well, you know what's good. You said you wanted to break the wheel. How can you say that this was good? Mm-hmm. And she says, well, because they wouldn't follow me. And if they don't follow me, then they're not going to be following good. That I'm the only one that knows what's good.
I know best.
Exactly. It's my way or the highway, basically. Which I think is touted so much in this world. And I think that, well, honestly, it would have been much better had they given it more time to develop. Mm-hmm. It was only half-baked. It was really half-baked. Not even baked. It was still raw. It was still mooing. It was
like we saw the recipe of how it was supposed to have been done.
The ingredients were sitting there.
Yeah, the ingredients were there, and nothing happened with them.
Yeah, they're like, it's going to make a cake.
Yeah, okay, well.
Yeah, well, then make it.
And then they just threw it into a bowl and said, here's a cake. And we're like, no, that's not a cake.
Keep going.
You got to bake it. It could take some time. Anyway.
Cake batter?
Yeah, here it is. They didn't even stir it to make it batter. Anyway.
Do you see some of those parallels in this world? And what are those parallels?
What parallels are you talking about?
About the people who are like, well, it's my way or the highway. I'm the only one who realizes what is good.
Are you talking about, in the real world parallels?
Sure, in the real world parallels or any other pop culture parallels.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Thanos, for one. Very...
Yeah, that's where I was going to.
My way or the highway. But then also, you can say Stark's been like that before.
Well, in the beginning, yeah. At the very beginning, he was like that.
Yep. Cap was also like that as well, too, because both of them were very pig-headed. I think we can both agree on that.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Gosh, anything besides real world? Oh, Voldemort. He was a very my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Because he's Voldemort.
And Grindelwald before him.
Mm-hmm. I guess Hitler. If we're gonna continue on down this path, might as well throw him in there.
Oh yeah, well that's the easy go-to. That's what everybody goes with. But I really,
Ooh, oh my gosh, Trump. Seriously, just now.
Yeah?
It's like my way or no highways at this point. Like it? Did you like it?
Yeah, that was good.
I totally stole it from somewhere. I don't know who said it, but I stole it.
Yeah, especially this week where it was like, we're going to have a meeting about infrastructure, but instead I'm just going to, throw a hissy fit and walk out. Mm-hmm. And then hold a press conference where I have signs that say I didn't do anything wrong.
And everybody else is like, what just happened?
And see, this is the problem, is that there's way too many people who believe this way, and who believe that theirs is the only interpretation. Theirs is the only way that things can happen. And especially, I'm thinking of evangelical Christians right now, especially. But it's really gotten to a point where that's why people don't want to be involved with these things, with a lot of religions, with a lot of people who end up closing everything else out. So would you think that the ability to listen to other ideas, other voices, be considered wisdom?
Yeah, because people who don't do that close themselves off from other possibilities. Not only other possibilities, but maybe other avenues that they can take to maybe get to where they want to go, but taking a better road. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This I think was a very big ideal for one of our best presidents ever was Abraham Lincoln. He filled his cabinet with people that didn't agree with him, and for that primary reason was that so he could get all sides of an issue. Mm-hmm. And this was something that recently in my own kind of journey through trying to figure things out about story and all this other stuff was there is a Jewish story about seeing a gem for all the sides, that you can never really fully understand a gem unless you've seen it from every single angle. Mm-hmm. And I think this is very true with our stories as well. If we don't hear all sides of the story, we can never really understand a story. We can never really pull out the truth from a story. And this is why I have problems with adaptations, is because it's the wrong medium to view different sides of this gem. Mm-hmm. And this is the problem, is that it becomes more characterization rather than a moment of grief for Dany. That, it was like, yeah, she went through all this loss. She just lost Jorah. She just lost her other dragon. She just lost Missandei right in front of her. Yeah, that was horrible. But in all of those other instances where she had horrible things happen to her, she did have a temper, but she never did anything that really showed her to be taking a path that was going to be completely veering off the deep end.
Yep. And I know that they showed those, I call them the cop-out moments.
Yeah.
When her husband murdered her brother and she just watched. And then the other time when she killed all of the, oh my gosh, I can't remember what they're called. All of the leaders of the horse people. Oh my gosh. As soon as the show ended, I'm just all of that knowledge just went out my head.
The ones who were, Dothraki.
The leaders of the Dothraki. So she killed all of those guys. And that's kind of, but
who
she
all
also
died
had
off
reason.
in the Battle of Winterfell and then suddenly reappeared.
No. You're thinking of something else. So remember, all of the leaders were in the hut?
No,
She burned down that. Yeah, because she did all of that, all of their riders followed her because she was...
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. The riders. The riders were all killed off at the Battle of Winterfell.
Yes.
And then suddenly reappeared at the end.
Yeah, that was very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Math this season very much went out the window. Mm-hmm. Also, the Unsullied, too. All of a sudden, there was still, thousands of Unsullied, and we're like...
Most of you were killed. What happened?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what happened? Anyway.
There was enough time between...
They multiplied, apparently.
Yeah, on the King's Road.
Anyway, but
which people forget. That's a very long doesn't it take a couple of weeks to travel that road?
I don't remember exactly how long, but it is... They definitely got there faster by boat. But I agree with you that her grief was very short. So the first step of grief is denial and isolation. She didn't even, I saw like no denial. She just went straight to isolation, but she only isolated herself for like a day. Like it wasn't very long.
Well, in the terms, and they didn't show any time passage, which
her hair was a little messy, I guess.
Her hair was messy, which could have been like, oh yeah, on
she
the flight
slept
back,
on it.
Yeah, she slept on a bed, and then she got, like weird.
Yeah, and yes, anger is the next stage, as well, but it just didn't feel.
She's never
complete.
Her anger has never taken over her in that way. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean. And besides the difference between that whatever it was that they were doing, that character trait that they were just giving to her instead of that characterization, because over the characterization of the 8 seasons, they basically showed her as somebody who was pretty level-headed.
Yeah. For the most part. I mean, she was a teenager, but, teenagers aren't known for their level-headedness all the time.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, is that she was told basically for the entire 8 seasons that she was broken. And she was like, no, I'm not broken. I'm going to show you that I'm not broken. I'm going to show you that I'm not my father. And this is, the whole thing with Tyrion was like, I'm not my father either. That's why I love her. Is because she's not her father. I'm not my father. We're going to break the wheel. We're going to make something good.
Yes.
And so that's, like for me, who is somebody who was told his entire life that he was broken, that he was told that there was something wrong with him when there was, like whenever that I was told that I was going to be like my father or something else like this, that taking it personally like that, I resonated with that. That was something that both Tyrion and Daenerys were something of role models to me, because they showed that you could break the wheel. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, we're going to throw that out the window.
Well, same with me too, with the whole like not wanting to be like your father, because that's why I take the steps that I do in order for me to prevent myself from falling into addiction, the habits of addiction. So it doesn't make any sense. But she's so hyper aware of it. You would think that she wouldn't fall into her father's footsteps because she's been hyper aware like I am.
Well, do you think that Dany was the only character who was shortchanged? Who else was shortchanged in this season? That they really just kind of took the character away from the actor, pretty much.
Oh gosh, Jon Snow for sure.
Yes,
but
it was kind of his story. So
yeah, most importantly, though, in my opinion, Cersei, she said like squat during this season. Mm-hmm. She had only a handful of scenes, most of which were just her staring off into the distance. That's it.
Just look at Lena Headey. Okay.
Yep.
That's it. That's all you need.
Yep. Here she is holding a glass of wine, looking off into the distance again. But I mean, we have no sense of how she is actually ruling and governing King's Landing. Like we do see, people out in the north and like how they view her and, what she has done and that kind of stuff. And yes, she did blow up the Sept and kill a bunch of people by doing that. But like, how has she changed since then? We don't know. We just have to assume that after that happened and after she lost all of her children, that she didn't develop much as a character.
Yeah, it was almost as if every time a character wasn't on screen, their characterization was just put on pause.
Exactly, and that's not
they didn't
how
develop at
life
all.
Works.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And it was not only her, but Jaime as well.
Oh,
don't even get me started on this.
Poor Brienne.
Like, I know he had a good moment with her. He seemed like that. I realized at the moment when he was looking back at her, it was kind of like, am I a good man? And he was weighing that, and he was saying to himself that no. But in that moment, what I saw from the actor was more, yeah, I can have this life. Yes, I can be a good person. I can be better than I was. And then he goes right out the door and is like, nope, I'm going back to my sister.
And I know that their whole, like, well, she's, like his whole speech, like, she's basically a drug. Like, I'm addicted to her. She has this power over me, blah, blah, blah. I call BS, to be honest. Because when she basically forbid him from going up north, he was like, see ya, peace out. Like if she had that much strong of a hold on him, then why was he able just to walk away?
Exactly. Why was he able to walk out the door? And he's like, no, I'm going to go help. I'm going to go fight for them. I'm going to, this is right.
It's right, and it's more important than what you're dealing with right now.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
But that was just completely forgotten about and thrown out the window.
Yep.
So what would have shown this descent for Danny better?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more and what I'm going to say, but basically we just needed more time.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Way more time.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I would have been more happy with the outcome if we had been given maybe a little bit more dialogue, a little bit more explanation from somebody besides just, on previous episodes, this is what she's done in the past.
Danny and Cersei didn't have enough history together.
Yeah.
Like, they had that one meeting before the whole, whole Battle of the Dead.
And they're basically like, well, we both want this throne. Cersei's like, I have it. And Danny, wants to take it from me. So that's their driving force.
Yeah, which is petty in human terms. And, nobody really is that shallow, I believe.
I've definitely met some shallow people.
Well, yeah. I mean...
Most people aren't that shallow.
Most people aren't that shallow.
Yeah.
For me, yeah, it was more time, but I think that what they could have still rushed it, but they could have at least shown more of a provoking from Cersei. Like maybe some, like, ravens sent up to Danny throughout the entire thing. Just like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm not sending troops your way. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do about it? Just something that's kind of like egging her on rather than just this whole, that escalated quickly of, beheading Missandei in front of her. It really did escalate quickly.
Yeah, and I think if she had done that, had the ravens go up there, then that would have given the audience more of an understanding of why they're going down there so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like prank calls. She's sending Danny prank calls throughout the entire thing, which would have been like, it would have been fine. Everybody else would have been like, oh, okay. Yeah. And, then it would have led to more character development for Danny.
Yep.
So this is what I think is what we can learn from Danny in the last two episodes is I think that really don't go off half-baked, or as somebody that I once knew used to say, yeah, he's going off half-cocked, which, is a gun term, but, I don't really like it, and I don't think a whole lot of people really understand it, but it's half-baked is a lot better, I think, yeah, if you're going to go do something, if you're really angry about something, just don't go hopping on dragons,
Oh.
Yeah. And if you believe that you're right, you probably should get some feedback from some other people. So we're going to go with those are the things that you should learn from Danny in the last few episodes.
Yes, feedback is very important. And get feedback from multiple people. All right. So I feel like we're going to be talking about a lot of the same things, but I think a lot of people after this season are talking about the same things over and over again because they're just angry about it or disappointed in it. So
yeah.
So instead of focusing on characters, I want to go over things that we can learn from the writers specifically, because let's face it, they're the ones that effed up. So just like real people, characters need some time to develop. Character development takes time. When you just try to roll over with a steamroller, all of the foundation that you had put down to help develop this character, and then all of a sudden just try to speed it up real quick, it's not going to work. One, that's not what your audience has been expected to get from you. Like, Game of Thrones is even though there's, as much as it's about wars and that kind of stuff, it's also about, it's a political drama as well, too. And political dramas have to have a little bit more storylines to them. So, again, like you were saying, we understand people's motivations behind things a little bit clearer, instead of just giving us one-liners. So I know you kind of went over it a little bit, but if you could choose something else, what are you the maddest about in terms of everything?
Well, here's the thing is, you and I both know, and I've mentioned it before in the podcast, but I was reading Robert McKee's story, Substance, and anyway, it's a long title, but needless to say, it's Robert McKee's story. And, as I'm reading this, I'm going through this, and I'm understanding about writing a little bit better for screen. And, the entire time I'm reading it, I'm like, I just watched this on Game of Thrones. They just did a horrible job, a very good example of what not to do. And I think that's what made me the maddest was seeing this play out. I'm like, I'm reading this book so that I could better understand movies and television, so I can better do this podcast. And the entire time I'm thinking, oh man, this is Game of Thrones and it's bad. Mm-hmm. It's bad. Mm-hmm. And this is making me mad because we paid the $25 so we could have HBO for these 2 months.
Yep. For me, let me think. I'm mad about a lot of things. What I'm most mad about, I'm mad that the writers I understand, when a good job opportunity comes along, you want to make sure that you get at it as quickly as you possibly can. Totally understand. I'm a person and I like money too. However, they were offered a full season. They were offered 10 episodes. And they were like, nah, we'll do it in 6. And that just makes me so mad, because in those extra 4 episodes that they cut out, we could have gotten more backstory about Dany. We could have delved a little bit more into what Cersei was doing while during the whole siege and during the Battle of Winterfell. We could have explored those things. We could have figured out what was going on in Dorne, the Iron Islands. The Iron Islands are just a sentence oh yeah, she's off there and she claimed the islands in your name.
Yep.
The end. Okay. We get none of that. And there's so many other things going on in the rest of the country that would be important and good to know, and they just kind of write it off. But anyway, so that's what I'm maddest about, is the fact that they willingly, even though they were given the time, were just nah.
Something that I just realized that would have been satisfying too, Arya's direwolf, and I can't remember what the name of her direwolf is.
I can't remember. It's not Lady, because that's Sansa's.
But if Arya's direwolf and that direwolf or that wolf pack showed up at the Battle of Winterfell,
oh yeah,
that would have been a good closure for that whole storyline too. And I realize that the CG is expensive for the wolves, and yeah, okay, but so is CG for zombies. Come on. Nymeria, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, not a problem. But I think, it would have been good, and it would have been cool. Anyway, but I think that they already kind of wrote an end for her.
Yeah.
When they met in the woods, and she was just you're no longer, we're different now.
Yeah.
We're just different. We're both kind of more wild. Again, we already kind of went into this a little bit, but what is something that you wish that they could have expanded on?
That's not the only thing. Like the whole symbols of the White Walkers, of the
what
Night
they were doing
King.
with the bodies and that kind of stuff. Like, why?
Why? Yeah, and I imagine that George R. R. Martin's going to put that in the books, but ain't nobody got time for that.
Oh, I'm going to have time for that because I need my holes fit. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I'm not going to say. That's embarrassing.
Okay. There's
holes that need to be filled, but not mine.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
There's plot holes that need to be filled.
This episode is just...
There's a lot of things that we kind of need answers to, and I get it. Yes, that's what Game of Thrones has been for a long time, but that's not what a last season is for. Mm-hmm. A last season is for wrapping up those questions and answering them.
Yeah. Someone actually said, for me, the whole like expansion thing, by the way, my original question, somebody else had mentioned they could have really expanded these into multiple seasons. You know, the season 8 could have been the actual like preparation for the Battle of Winterfell. Totally valid. The next season could have been, what was happening between after that battle and getting ready for the Battle of King's Landing. And then the next season would have been after the Battle of King's Landing, the descent of Daenerys.
Yeah.
It would have given us more time. We would have been able to actually know what was going on in the Iron Islands and in Dorne and heck, we don't even know what's going on in Essos right now. Like, we have no idea what's going on.
The Sons of the Seven, something like that. The mercenaries.
Dany's old boyfriend and his men are taking care of it. But what's going to happen now that Dany's dead?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to them? You know, like that's kind of hasn't been said. Some people are like, well, Grey Worm is going to go and be the leader, but is he really? Like, it wasn't actually said that he was, so who knows?
No, they were heading off. He was keeping his promise to Missandei.
Yeah. Well, but after that, because you can always go someplace and not actually stay there. Anyway. And another thing that the audience did, another thing that the writers did, I think, is they did the common mistake that a lot of writers and producers in Hollywood do, and they assumed that the audience was dumb, was stupid, that we weren't going to catch on to these plot holes, and we weren't going to catch on to those things that they completely just ignored or jumped over, And the type of people who watch Game of Thrones are the type of people who like to speculate. Like, we want to think about it. Like, we want to be able to have that water cooler conversation with our coworkers and try to figure out what's going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. And we weren't able to do any of that this season, really.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that's what a last season is for wrapping up those questions, and not allowing for more of the, well, what about this? And those are big ones. Mm-hmm. Like, those are big things that are supposed to be taken care of. And, this is, I'm again going to pull from this book, from the Robert McKee book, but he said, if your work is good, if it's true, people aren't going to notice the plot holes.
Yeah.
Like, his whole big thing to show that was about Terminator. Was, okay, well, if Kyle Reese is also John's father, then how did he know to send him back to make sure that he was born? But, nobody cared about that because the Terminator was still like a good, true movie for people.
I'm just shaking my head yes, because I've never seen any of the Terminators, so I'm just blindly agreeing with you until I can see them myself.
Yeah.
And another thing they did too is, I think because the fan base has been so strong and we love Game of Thrones so much, that when we came out and we were like, yo, season 8 wasn't great, like, we're not happy, they got mad. They were like, well, you just don't understand, like, you just don't get it. Or like, Or you just have to wait to the next episode and then you'll understand. And we watch the next episode and we're like, I guess I understand, but it still doesn't really explain much, So, it's a sign of strength to admit when you're wrong. And the writers need to admit that they were wrong and they shortchanged us. And I don't know. I just don't see them doing that because just based on the interviews that they've done, I just don't see it happening, which is kind of sad.
And as we just verified, it's also a sign of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. It is also a sign of wisdom. So, yeah, don't get angry if you're a writer and your audience is this dedicated like they are with Game of Thrones and they point out the obvious flaws in what the show was going down. Anyway. It's supposed to be a smart show. You know, that's why people were drawn to it. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of people from many demographics liked it, but the majority of the people who watched it because it was a smart, intriguing show. And this last season was neither smart or intriguing.
Yes.
The end. End of sentence. End of my rant.
And I just finished Stephen King's On Writing. Even he said something like this, was that, look, if people believe that, like, if you're not going to kill your darlings, and this is the terminology for writers, is that if you don't kill off your favorite scenes, if you're not willing to get rid of those things that you really, really want to put in there, then you're not writing. You're not writing for an audience. You're writing just to see your scenes. Mm-hmm. That, he's like, well, and I some of his books, they're not the greatest, but there are some books that are just absolutely incredible. Like, he is a storyteller. And this was the thing, was that they didn't kill their darlings for this. Mm-hmm. They wanted to put their favorite items in the show, and everybody else was like, yeah, I guess that was cool, but it's not our favorite thing.
And for the love of God, when your dog is alive after being attacked by zombies, you tell him he's a good boy and you give him kisses no matter what the cost.
Yeah, and don't leave it until the last episode.
Oh, I was so mad. You tell your dog he's a good boy. You don't just stare at him. Oh my God. Sorry. I'm just so mad about that still.
I get it. I get that the CG was just too expensive, but,
Well, they could have, I don't know, toned down the dragons a little bit, I guess. I don't know. They could have done something. Or the whole just walkers, or the White Walkers themselves, like, they could have toned that down a little bit. Some of that was, well, we couldn't see it anyway because it was so dark.
Yeah. And I also get that there were a lot of Sir not appearing in this television series. Mm-hmm. So what are they doing then?
I don't know.
Like, we know they exist in this universe.
What are you referring to?
They're, like, things that were happening outside. Like, for instance, like Essos. Like, what happened to those mercenaries? Like, did she bring some of those people over? Are they also
I don't think
fighting?
So. No, I think they're still in Essos. But anyway. All right. I think we got to wrap up. I'm exhausted from being angry.
All right, so we want to thank you guys so much for listening to us rant about Game of Thrones Season 8. We are going to be taking a short break. This is going to be our summer break. We're going to be taking a break for the month of June. Mm-hmm. We will be back in July. We've got a lot of things to talk about, including Dead to Me. If there's anything else that you feel like we need to watch and talk about, please let us know. We are going to be still active on Instagram and Facebook and on the website. And Kathy will tell you about where those are.
Yes. So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Patron Saints of Pop Culture. You can also find us on Twitter at The Honest Faith. And then our website is now patronsaintsofpopculture.org.
www.patronsaintsofpopculture.org. And don't forget the www, because for some reason it doesn't take you there without them. I'll have to figure out how to make sure that it still will take you there.
Yep.
So, with all of that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye.
yourself a favor.